Welcome to today's Explainer. We've got a truly special one for you today. We're unpacking a deeply emotional and beautifully crafted narrative sourced from a traditional Hindi story. It's a tale that perfectly weaves together themes of enduring hardship, the cruelty of society, and the ultimate life-altering power of selfless compassion. As we go through this, we're going to look closely at the stark contrasts between the characters and see how one single act of kindness can completely rewrite a person's destiny. So, get comfortable, because we are unraveling the story of a man who had absolutely nothing, yet gave everything. Okay, let's dive into this. I want to start with a question that really sits at the heart of our story today. Imagine having absolutely no family, no wealth, and facing constant, daily mockery from the world around you. If you were in that position, would you still open your doors to strangers? Will an orphan's selfless kindness ever lead him to a true family? Keep this question in the back of your mind as we follow the journey of our protagonist, a poor laborer whose life is about to be tested in unimaginable ways.
Our story kicks off in an atmosphere of just utter despair. We meet Dhiru and his wife Kajari. For a full week, relentless, torrential rain has absolutely battered their village. Listen to the sheer helplessness in Dhiru's own words. This rain has made life impossible. A whole week has passed and it shows no sign of stopping. How will we run this house? The source narrative paints a really bleak picture here. The vegetables are rotting, dampness is creeping into the walls of their tiny home, and worst of all, the roof has started leaking. Actually, that leaking roof completely destroys what little paper money they had managed to scrape together, pretty much tearing their hopes apart. The unceasing rain has literally washed away their livelihood.
To really grasp what Dhiru is up against, we need to look at the power dynamics at play here. On one side, we have Dhiru. He's incredibly hardworking, but utterly impoverished. And he's an orphan, which in this particular society makes him an easy target for constant mockery. On the flip side, we have his employer, Thakur Durjan Pratap. The Thakur is everything Dhiru isn't. He's wealthy, powerful, arrogant, and, frankly, entirely unforgiving. When Dhiru desperately goes to him for work in the pouring rain, the Thakur agrees, but on one super harsh condition. Dhiru must never miss a day, regardless of the weather. There is zero empathy here, it's just cold, hard exploitation.
The source text actually lays out this brutal, day-by-day escalation of his struggles. Day 1, the relentless rain begins. Day 4, his roof leaks, destroying the money he painstakingly saved. By day 6, he's emotionally shattered. But the worst part isn't even the poverty. It's the psychological torment from the villagers. When Dhiru shows up for work in a severe storm on day 7, the villagers openly mock him as Manhus, which translates to cursed or ominous. And why? Simply because he's an orphan. They cruelly point out that he has no relatives, no family, no friends. They honestly believe his isolation is a literal curse.
But then, right in the middle of all this, a little flicker of light breaks through the storm. One evening, while walking home, Dhiru spots a couple, Raman and Janki, shivering helplessly under a tree. They're travelers, stranded in the village with no place to stay and literally nowhere to go. Now, remember Dhiru's situation for a second. His house is leaking, his money is ruined, and he barely has enough food for his own wife. Yet, defying absolutely every instinct of self-preservation, he refuses to leave them out in the cold. He invites these complete strangers right into his home.
And this brilliantly illustrates the beautiful cultural core of this narrative. When Dhiru brings them home, his wife Kajari doesn't react with anger or panic about their limited resources. Instead, she's overjoyed. For her, a mehman, or guest, is quite literally a form of God. It's this deeply ingrained cultural belief that serving a guest with respect is a sacred duty. Despite their crushing poverty, Kajari heads straight to the kitchen and lovingly prepares a feast with whatever little they have left, turning a night of absolute misery into a warm celebration of humanity.
So over the next few days, something incredibly beautiful happens. The two couples form this profound connection. They share late-night conversations and warm meals. Raman even insists on going down to the godown to help Dhiru with his heavy labor, even though the village men ruthlessly laugh at the idea of an orphan like Dhiru actually having guests. But what's so poetic here is that the very rain that brought so much misery to Dhiru and Kajari just a week earlier, it now becomes a source of comfort. Sitting together, drinking tea, the rain just becomes a backdrop to this newfound temporary family.
But, life for Dhiru is never that simple. The daily grind of walking to work in the freezing rain finally takes its toll, and Dhiru falls sick with a fever. One day, while working totally alone at the godown, physically exhausted and shivering, his grip slips. He drops his single sack of grain into the rain-soaked mud, ruining it. It's just a simple human mistake. But man, for the hateful villagers who've been waiting for any excuse to ruin him, it's the perfect weapon. They immediately seize him and drag the sick, feverish Diru straight to the Takor.
The Takur's reaction? It's swift and just unbelievably cruel. He doesn't just dock Diru's pay for the day. Oh no, he escalates the punishment to an impossible degree. First, he flat out refuses any reasonable settlement. Second, he demands that Diru repay him not with 1 sack of grain, but with 3 sacks. And finally, he fires Diru on the spot, banning him from the workplace until this massive, impossible debt is paid in full. He actually has Diru physically thrown out of the mansion. Diru goes home, a completely broken man. He explains the situation to Kajari, and the sheer weight of their reality sets in. His despair is absolute, summed up in this one terrifying thought. I have no work and no money. How will I pay triple? The black clouds of ruin have firmly settled over their home. They go to sleep that night hungry, terrified, and seemingly without a single ray of hope. I mean, take a second to just imagine the crushing weight of that moment.
But here's the thing. They aren't actually alone in the house. In the other room, Jonki had been listening. She overhears Diru's tears and the Takor's unfair decree. She turns to her husband, Raman, and softly says, "They have helped us so much. Now it is our turn. Let them know who we really are." This right here is the pivotal turning point in the source material. The strangers who are taken in from the cold decide that it's finally time to drop their disguise and step into the light. Now, what's really interesting about this reveal is the massive twist it brings. The next morning, Raman and Janki walk out with a staggering amount of cash. Raman reveals that he isn't a poor traveler at all. He is, in fact, a highly renowned and incredibly wealthy merchant from the city. Without hesitating, he takes the money, marches right up to the Takur, clears Diru's debt entirely, and metaphorically throws the cash right in the greedy Takura's face. Now, you're probably wondering why on earth was a wealthy merchant pretending to be some homeless traveler? Well, the text provides a really fascinating parallel. Raman had abundant money, land, businesses, the whole shebang. But much like Diru, he suffered from profound emotional poverty. Raman had no family, no relatives at all. He hid his wealth because he lived in constant fear that people would only love him for his money. He was craving a genuine, selfless connection, which Diru and Kajari provided without ever knowing who he was. Deeply moved by Diru's pure heart, Raman offers him a full business partnership in the city.
Right before they leave for the city, Kajari, who is just overflowing with gratitude, buys a new karta, a traditional shirt, for Diru as a gift. As Diru begins to change his shirt, Raman's eyes lock onto something. There, right on the back of Diru's neck, is a very specific, undeniable birthmark. And just like that, the entire atmosphere in the room shifts in a heartbeat. Overcome with emotion, Raman pulls back his own collar to reveal the exact same birthmark. He cries out, "You are my brother! Look, I have the exact same mark. Mother told me I had a brother who was lost." The two men, who had spent their entire lives feeling orphaned, cursed, and utterly alone, suddenly realize that they share the deepest blood bond possible. The stranger Diru saved from the storm, it was his own long-lost brother. Tears of absolute joy flood the room as their lifelong search for family finally ends. So let's see how this builds into an incredibly satisfying resolution. The aftermath is just perfect. The brothers immediately merge their lives. They manage their sprawling businesses together, splitting their time between the city and the village. Through this partnership, Diru quickly becomes far wealthier and way more powerful than the cruel Takor Durjan Pratap ever was. And those villagers, the ones who mocked him and called him cursed, they are forced to eat their words, finally giving Diru the profound respect he deserved all along. This whole narrative really comes full circle, leaving us with a powerful reflection on karma and the genuine value of a kind heart. Diru gave his last piece of bread to a stranger, and in return the universe gave him the one thing money could never buy, his family. It really makes you think, doesn't it? If we treat every stranger like family, might we one day find our own? Thank you so much for joining me on today's Explainer. I hope this story stays with you long after the screen goes dark. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.